The Pope is dead. Long live the Pope.
The Pope is dead. Did you hear? Did you hear about the Pope dying? You probably did, especially if you're addicted to social media because everyone had jokes. Everyone, and depending on your level of reverence for the Pope, you either found that to be in despicably poor taste or you thought that was the best part about the Pope dying. How tasteless can we be? How ghoulish are we allowed to be in the face of God, the all-knowing, all-seeing development hell, vaporware, deity in the sky? A few months ago, the Pope inhaled some loose frankincense and was infected with a combination of Cotard's syndrome and jaundice because those are the funniest sounding diseases. As he approached heaven's suburban segregated community, we watched with anticipation, too jaded and irony-pilled to take it seriously. To that end, I gave myself an assignment. Between the time the Pope dies and the moment the new Pope is elected, I would play as many Catholic-themed video games as I can fit into my schedule, and judge them based on how Catholic they are. Not games that preach Catholicism, heavens no, more like games that have that dry Eucharist flavor. I must assign points indiscriminately, if only to further trivialize this international tragedy/meme opportunity. Ever read those movie reviews from Catholic publications that focus heavily on how Catholic a movie is and how much Catholics would enjoy that movie? Well, this is the reverse or inverse of that, related in some, at least superficial way that if any Catholics have a problem with this, I'm afraid that's hypocrisy and that makes your Messiah cry, but only when he's an infant for some reason. I was raised Catholic. I'm allowed to talk shit. Those are the rules apparently, and you get to watch me exploit them. Let's go!
Acts of Vampire Survivors.
Oh, how they rush and chase and bite and claw their way to me, every vampire, zombie, mummy, ghost, and goblin, all struggling to be the one monster that devours me. Their prize? Only my blood and a picture of themselves on a cereal box. Thousands upon thousands, millions upon millions, all with the same strategy, move towards the center. The best way to avoid these beasts would be to stand ever so slightly askew from the center. They would not be able to find me then, but as I am trapped, caged, in the heart of the screen, the convergence point, there is just no escape except through them, through their very guts and bones. I love Vampire Survivors. It's the best game to play if you have 45 minutes to spare. It's also the best game to play for 20 minutes if you suck at Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors is tricky. Not to play, it's super easy to learn. No, Vampire Survivors is tricky in its Christian denominations. Vampire Survivors tells us precious little about the characters we can choose, their hopes, their dreams, their juvenile arrest records. Vampire Survivors gives us only so much insight into the character's backstory. I typically main Sister Clerici. The nuns in my Catholic school were strict. They terrorized the children. The nuns had a wooden paddle on the wall, a constant threat to give us all a fetish. When I see Sister Clerici on the character select screen, I think, oh, Catholic points, here we come. Not so fast. The Anglican Communion and the Eastern Orthodox Church both practice monasticism as well. Nuns populate the Catholic, Anglican, and Eastern Orthodox denominations. Clerici could be an Anglican nun, but her name is so Italian that it conjures Rome, Vatican City, that sort of thing. Italians love Catholicism more than pepperoni pizza and fascism. Here's where it gets even trickier. Clerici and other bloodsucker busters use a weapon called the King Bible, an obvious nod to the King James Bible. This is a big no-no for Catholics. To Catholics, the King James Bible may as well be the Necronomicon. If you choose not to waste your life on holy homework and don't know a Latin Vulgate from a new international version, then congratulations on all your free time. I bet you had sex in high school. However, if you're like me, you know that the King James Bible is not the version of the Bible used by the Roman Catholic Church. See, the King James is a product of the Anglican Communion. Sure, there is a King James Bible for Catholics in the same way that there are imitation chicken nuggets for vegans, and Vampire Survivors does not explicitly call the King Bible the King James Bible. It could be any king. Alright, let's go with 25 points for the Bible with unclear denominational attachment. Another 25 for a nun who may or may not be Catholic, and 50 more points for the other Christian weapons in the game, such as the holy water. If you're wondering what holy water is just like regular water, and that's it. European vampire folklore and Christianity got all mixed up and syncretic. Vampires are commonly thought to have supernatural weaknesses to crucifixes, holy water, and other objects blessed with the Lord our God. Horror fiction and Catholicism go together like the body and blood of Christ. 100 points for all the demons in Vampire Survivors by sheer volume alone. Nevertheless, Vampire Survivors is ever so slightly more Anglican than Catholic and receives only a grand total of 200 points. For it was written in the book of Deuteronomy, if two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and grabs his penis, you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity.
The Epistle to Felvidek.
I am Pavel the Knight, cursed with a sneering grin and a wife who wants nothing to do with me. Could there be another man? Could my lifetime of alcoholism be driving a wedge between us? Or perhaps my wife has joined the cult of Zervan and started wearing hats with vampire fangs on them. Only God has the answers, but he does not answer my prayers. He is far too busy giving people cancer. Felvidek takes place in the uplands of Slovakia in the 15th century. During that period, Slovakia was part of the Kingdom of Hungary, once known as the Christian Kingdom of Hungary. It was so Christian that the Holy Roman Empire wanted it for themselves and unsuccessfully tried to conquer it. 50 Catholic points for the setting. Felvidek is set at a time of a proto-Protestant movement, basically everything before Martin Luther got nailin'. Prior to what historians simply call the Protestant Reformation, there was the Bohemian Reformation. Jan Hus, an educator and preacher, was the most prominent reformer. For his principles, he was burned at the stake. In the game, the Hussites roamed the countryside for Catholics to bludgeon and teach about their peaceful ways. The denizens of Felvidek don't care much for the Hussites and talk smack about them whenever they can. Another 100 points for the denominational schism. The tale of Felvidek features Pavel, a knight who has taken into ale to wash away the memory of his philandering wife. He is permanently grinning like he just told the naughtiest joke. His companion is Matej, a holy man who has not scheduled any shenanigans whatsoever but is forced to look after Pavel, lest he collapse into a pool of himself. 50 points for the inclusion of the holy man. One of the main settings of the game is a church, and if that is not enough, the townspeople talk of God on the regular, including this priest who ignores any and all vows of celibacy. Another 50 points. I love this game. The crispy, crunchy graphics, the bawdy sense of humor, the glorious soundtrack, and cutscenes that were snatched from another time and dimension. In total, Felvidek receives 250 Catholic points. For it is said in the book of Isaiah, instead of fragrance, there will be stench. And elsewhere in the book of Isaiah, you will throw them away like a menstrual cloth.
The Song of Pentiment.
The sun scorches the sky. A new dawn, a new day, a new opportunity to bask in God's splendor and display the talent with which he has blessed me. I am but an apprentice artist, working alongside monks. But circumstances and the premise of this game both dictate that I solve a series of homicides, murders most foul, for everyone else is too busy fucking sheep or whatever it is they do in this charming bumfuck hamlet. Pentiment takes place in 1518 in the Holy Roman Empire. The short version is that many years before the events of the game, Charlemagne made a deal with the Pope. In exchange for the church having moral authority, Charlemagne could pretend to be something akin to Caesar and control the population through the fear of God. That's Pope stuff right there. 200 points for Pope stuff. Straight away, first chapter, first verse, first mistranslation, Pentiment presents itself as Catholic in its art style. It's aesthetic. Every character is drawn as if they were carefully inked and colored in centuries-old manuscripts written by Catholic monks, carved in wood cuttings or fashioned in stained glass windows. Monks are more enthusiastic about stained glass than someone eagerly lying under a coffee table. I'm gonna give this game another 50 points just for that. The art style can be used in secular society, which is why it's not 100. The church has banned reverence to anyone but the saints, throwing out the old traditions of the locals. Your ghosts are the wrong kinds of ghosts. Many characters in Pentiment are members of the clergy or monastic orders. From what I remember from Catholic school, nuns are not considered clergy, but they are part of a religious order. Adding them all up, I will give Pentiment another 200 points. Trying to flirt with the nun doesn't really lead to anything too spicy, so I will leave the points alone. Pentiment is colored by the Catholic faith, but it's not proselytizing. The story is one of change, of reformation, even of revolution. The Protestant shift in Christianity comes up early on. Fun fact, Charles V and then Pope Leo X Both condemned Martin Luther, and the new pope today is also a Leo. This one is the 14th. Funner fact, Charles V oversaw some of the colonization of the Americas, and Leo XIV is the first pope born in the United States. Okay, they're not fun facts at all, they're just regular facts. Andreas meets a nun, and since I gave him theology training, he recognizes her behavior as a vision. Andreas, you have no idea what's going on. Pentiment is a series of murder mysteries with no real solutions. Andreas can't check the Zodiac Killer subreddit, which is the strangest subreddit that I'm subscribed to. Nothing Andreas does will stop the overall murder spree until the end of the game. Nobody he selects as the most likely culprit is ever confirmed by the game itself. Andreas fingering the suspects gets these suspects executed, but whether or not they were even guilty is a purposeful shrug of the game. It lends itself to the conflict between hopelessness and hopefulness that permeates throughout the story. Pentiment reveals some facts about the goings-on of the town in the final act, but so much of it is left to the imagination. Anyway, here are two monks fucking behind a bookcase. The Catholic Church would not approve, which nets it 0 points, but the sex is so neatly hidden behind this bookcase that I shall reward it with 50 points for modesty or Catholic guilt. The townspeople burn down the abbey as they can no longer afford the taxes and oppressive atmosphere of the church. In total, Pentiment receives 500 Catholic points and takes the lead. Yea, it is written in the book of Genesis, "Let's get our father drunk on wine and have sex with him."
The Book of Doom.
I am a space marine of indeterminate name. Someone opened a portal to hell on their lunch break and forgot to close the portal because the boss needed someone on the floor. Every human has been zombified but me. No explanation why. God never gives us more than we can handle, and it must be God who scattered a nearly endless supply of ammunition and first aid kits exactly where I need them to be. Get behind me, Satan, and get in front of my shotgun, Satan's helpers. I want to see your face explode. Doom was released in 1993, and it has been 1993 ever since. There is always more Doom to play, always more Doom that the people deliver, free of charge, into our waiting arms. Doom will never die because Doom is like the world. Doom continues so long as there are people in it. Hell is a contentious topic among Christian theologians and clergy. Hell is forever. Hell is torture. Hell is torture forever. Therein lies the problem. For there to be a loving God, justice would have to be proportional. Our lives on earth are finite, limited. Even the worst human being who ever lived would not be receiving a proportional amount of punishment if that punishment were infinite. Also, what would torture accomplish? Who gets anything out of that? Not God, because God doesn't need anything from anyone. Not us, because what? Are we in heaven watching the Hell Channel on television? Having a grand old time seeing people less holy than ourselves get tortured forever? That doesn't sound all that righteous. Because of these reasons and so many more, a portion of modern Christians reject the idea of hell, whether it's infinite or not, because it's not in line with their conception of a loving God. But the Catholic Church? Have you read the Catechism of the Catholic Church? It affirms the existence of hell, the eternity of hell, and the burning, scorching flames motif. If you ask a priest, bishop, or the pope on a good day, he will tell you that hell is separation between humanity and the grace of God. But the Catechism makes it abundantly clear that the Church does believe that hell is all about that burning torture forever as well. Pope Francis had some mixed messages about hell, and I have no earthly clue about the new guy. Pope Francis allegedly played Undertale. Maybe Pope Leo plays Doom. Anyway, 200 points for the hell setting in Doom. It's very Catholic.
Yahoo!
Demons are mentioned multiple times in the Holy Bible. Not these demons specifically, but others. We're talking Gospels of Matthew and Mark, the first epistle to Timothy, Revelation, all the greats. The inclusion of demons nabs Doom another 100 points for the cumulative demonic enemies.
Wow!
Doom Guy was never meant to have a backstory, a name, or an opinion on firebombing a Walmart, but the extended canon novelizations of Doom have the audacity to give him a name, Flynn Taggart. In the first novel, Knee Deep in the Dead, young Doom heads learned that Mr. Taggart went to Catholic school, believes in God, but is a non-practicing Catholic. I don't really know how to score this because any point allocation canonizes old Flynn's name, and none of this is in the game itself. Nevertheless, I will perform the equivalent of giving the homeless man outside the Walmart loose change instead of $1, and allow Doom 25 points for the reference to Catholic school in Doom literature. My video to make, my rules to break. If you play Doom WADs, you have probably stumbled upon some deeper and darker dives into religious imagery. I'm currently playing a mega WAD called Sanguine Holy Land. There is an altar, hooded figures, the blood of Christ, I'm assuming. These fan-made levels are not part of the main story or the original game, but now that the Steam version has built it into the menu, I'm gonna give Doom another 25 points purely for the potential to get extra Jesus-y should the mood arise. In total, Doom snatches 350 points, which I have to admit is lower than I expected. Doom's version of hell is not based heavily in scripture. There is no cyber demon in the Holy Bible, but in the Book of Kings it is told. Then 2 female bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 children.
Hold on, let me save myself.
The sauce is good, don't you think? Fresh ground pepper?
The Gospel of Nun Massacre.
I am the parent of a sick child missing inside a Catholic school. Rather than cut my losses with a newer, healthier child, I drive to the school to pick up my mistake. The lights flicker, my heart skips beats, and the air smells old and musty like a nun's private parts. Inside, I discover a nun who is 3% more horrific and violent than the average nun. In adherence to the Catholic Sacrament of Reconciliation, I have a confession to make. Although I am a lifetime horror hound, I have played a comparatively minuscule amount of survival horror games. I played the Resident Evil remake for a few hours, the first Silent Hill for a few hours, Crow Country before I got sidetracked with other things, and not much else. Nun Massacre hits me where it hurts, my childhood. Nun Massacre takes place in a mostly empty Catholic school on a dark and stormy night. That's 100 points for the setting. Ugh, this is almost as bone-chilling as being called to the principal's office. Did you go to Catholic school? Tell me your horror stories in the comments. Nun Massacre is the story of a mother who is summoned to the school due to her daughter's illness. Upon arrival, she finds that nobody is there but a roaming nun. Avoiding the nun is the name of the game. 100 more points for nuns. This unseen daughter better be worth it. Ugh, imagine having children. Do you have children? Tell me your horror stories about children in the comments. I feel like I'm right on top of this board, but I keep falling into the barbed wire anyway. Okay, I broke the glass in the door with a rock, but I can't get in? All the fun of getting trouble at Catholic school, but with none of the street cred for doing it. The Catholic school is decorated with crosses, 50 more points. In total, Nun Massacre gets 250 points, and it reminds me of the Book of Ezekiel. There she lusted after her lovers, whose penises were like those of donkeys, and whose farts were like those of horses.
The Revelation of Lucifer Within Us.
I am an exorcist. I have been tasked with looking deep into the minds of suspects, interrogating their desires, measuring the curves of their very souls. It has been hundreds of years since there has been a murder or a demonic possession, which has made my career rather redundant. What have I even been doing for money before today's incident? It matters not, for God himself has called me to the scene of the crime. My degree in exorcism finally worth more than the paper it was printed on. Lucifer Within Us is a mystery-solving game in which an exorcist must solve a series of murders and determine which demon has possessed which criminal. Demonic possession? That's 100 points right there. Sure, there are demons and possession in other faiths, but Ada is an honest-to-God exorcist battling the forces of darkness. Her faith is a syncretic mishmash of Catholicism with Egyptian pantheon aesthetics and techno-god sprinkling. The game is literally called Lucifer Within Us and features Lucifer, or a version of Lucifer. That's another, let's say, 75 points. Lucifer Within Us dual classes excellent game and frustrating game. The mechanics, the graphics, the music, everything pops. The frustration is in the length. Leave them wanting more doesn't really work here, because there isn't anything more coming. Lucifer Within Us presents us with a tremendously versatile mystery-solving mechanic that can be used for a game with 7, 8, 9, 10 mysteries, and then barely gives us a chance to see its full potential by ending on the third mystery. The first murder is basically a tutorial, leaving only 2 whodunits worth investigating. There is all this lore and world building that the game has, and it has this distinct flavor of something grander, but ends right where a demo would end. But it's not a demo, it's the whole shebang. And there is no update or sequel announced. It ends on the reveal of a twist and then what could be described as a cliffhanger. If you are the developer of Lucifer Within Us, for heaven's sakes, give us DLC or a sequel. It's been 5 years. With 2 of the 3 murders taking place on holy ground and multiple characters in the clergy, another 100 points feels about right. In total, that's 275 points. From God's hand to our eyes, it is written in the book of Hosea, give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts.
The first book of Blasphemous.
I am the penitent one, racked with guilt and cracked in my armored skull. I will slice, I will dice, I will not make nice. I will collect everything, Pokemon-like in obsessiveness, until I have the correct rosary beads and sword slashes to make the grossest monsters in the realm that much more disgusting and dead. I am almost certain that Blasphemous is my first true Metroidvania. I did not play Super Metroid or Castlevania Symphony of the Night as a youngster, and I couldn't bring myself to stay interested in Ori and the Will of the Whatever. Do the boss levels in Kid Icarus count as a Metroid? Where to begin? First of all, the game is called Blasphemous, the protagonist is called the Penitent One, and his helmet is wreathed in thorns. So that's gotta be 100 Catholic points right out the gate. The faith of the game, although its own thing, is inspired by the Catholic faith of its creator. Guilt plays not only a narrative role, but a mechanical role. Dying in Blasphemous means assuming guilt until it is expiated. That's 100 Catholic points there too. I feel bad about stuff I've never even done. There are churches everywhere. In fact, the whole world feels like a church. Organ music and traumatized altar boys as far as the eye can see. 100 points. Half of the enemies in the game are malformed Catholic stand-ins. Nuns, you betcha. Cardinals, all over the place. The world of Blasphemous is broken and split, with an apocalyptic population. 100 points. The items in the game are rosary beads and the remains of sinful people. 100 points. Every character is obsessed with their faith, as if it were their religion, ethnicity, and nationality all in one. Extremely Catholic. Have you ever met someone who calls themselves Irish Catholic, as if that were their whole identity? Do you not contain multitudes? Anyway, 50 more points. Blasphemous whispers to me in the dark, and what it whispers is, don't you feel bad about yourself? Why aren't you doing more to save the world? Everything bad that happens is your fault, whether you have the ability to change what happens or not. If this game were any more Catholic, it would bomb an abortion clinic. In total, 550 points. As it was once exclaimed in the book of Leviticus, Aaron waved the breasts and the right thigh before the Lord. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Okay, Vampire Survivors at 200, Felvidek and Nun Massacre at 250 apiece, Lucifer Within Us narrowly edging them out at 275, Doom at a respectable 350, Pentiment with an enormous 500, but our winner is Blasphemous. Yeah! For this, Blasphemous receives the prize, the Pope hat of Pope Formosus, who was so corrupt that 2 popes later they dug up his body and found him guilty of perjury. That is a real thing that happened. So, what did we learn today? Hopefully nothing. This is a fucking shitpost. Don't learn anything from me, okay? Support me on Patreon, thanks, bye.